series of webinars. UpStart Live is a series of webinars organized by PayU on startup and payment related topics. In this session of UpStart Live, we are discussing about mobile app marketing, strategies to success. We have S K Prasad Iyer, Head of Marketing at ZestMoney with us today. He is a marketer who has helped accelerate growth and retention for 5 amazing startups over the course of last 8 years. Having achieved amazing success for early stage startups in the B2B, B2C and marketplace spaces, he has hands-on expertise in getting things right the first time. Head Out, We Serve and Money Works For Me are some of the startups that he has helped grow. So we begin the session today. Welcome, S K Prasad.
Yep, thanks a lot for that introduction. Hello everyone, welcome to the webinar. So I'll today be talking about app marketing, specifically for people who are about to start with app marketing or want to understand as to how app marketing can help them grow the user base of their app, right? So when we talk about app marketing, right, how different it is from traditional marketing. In a traditional marketing, you are trying to sell a product or a service, and that you're doing it at an existing marketplace, like a shop or a website, right? How it's different for apps is that you have to first actually market yourself in one of the app platforms, which is Google or Apple. And outside of that, you have to also ensure that the people within the app are using the app the way that you want it, right? So that's how it's very different from traditional marketing, right? But what I would like to start off with is essentially helping you understand where your app or where what you're trying to sell through your app stands in this whole cycle of marketing. Yep. Yes. So if you see that the end goal of ours is essentially to sell a product or service to our consumer, right? Whether it's a purchase through a e-commerce app, or it is say a purchase of a service, or it is say buying features within a game, right? Whatever we are trying to do, we are essentially trying to reach out to the consumer. And to reach out to the consumer, there are a lot of hurdles in the place of any app, right? The first hurdle is that consumers don't directly come looking out, may or may not come directly looking out for apps, right? They will hear about the app either through their friends or read about it in a newspaper or a magazine, or see it as one of the featured apps when they open their app store or Play Store, right? None of the apps are essentially directly reaching out to the consumers. It's the consumers who are actually getting to know about the app through various mediums and platforms, right? So you have to kind of understand this gap between you and your consumer. And marketing essentially is to fill that gap, to find the best route for your consumers to come through and use your product or service, right? By best route, I mean for some people the best route can be the cheapest route. For some people, the best route can be to get as many numbers of users as possible. For some others, the best route can just mean to get a fixed number of users for their products or services, right? So that's what I mean that, okay, consumers are on one side, your products and services on one side, and they are connected through media and platform, right? How are media and platform different? Media essentially means any mass medium where consumers are going to consume content. This can mean from TV, radio, newspapers, to also the vast internet and all the blogs, publications, and everything else that is available there. So that's all media, right? And most of these mediums, you can reach out to the consumers organically. A newspaper can talk about you because you've done something great. A blogger can write a review about your product or service, or other ways as well, right? And you can also reach out to these mediums using paid methods, whether it's advertising using a TV ad or advertising on Facebook or even Instagram. It's all paid, so you can reach out through paid mediums as well as through organic, making people talk about you, right? And you have to kind of try all of these methods to find out which is the best route for you. By platform, what I mean essentially is Google and Apple's stores, which are Play Store and App Store. So essentially, to kind of download your app or use your app, most of the consumers are going to these stores to download. There are all obviously a lot of third-party stores when it comes to Android, and you need to understand again which is the best route to reach out to your consumers. Some third-party app store might be a better platform for you when compared to Google's own Play Store, right? So that's what I mean by media and platforms. So what's the first step when you want to reach out to consumers for your app, right? So first thing that you need to kind of figure out is who's the right consumer, right? Because in general, for example, if I create a game and I say, okay, anybody can use or play my game and enjoy, that's good enough to say, but when you're going to do marketing, you have to figure out who's the right consumer for you. And by what I mean by right consumers, especially for apps and early stage startups, is the consumer who has the most urgent use case for your product, right? Again, a good example here would be that all of us use email on a very regular basis, right? But for example, a sales manager of a B2B startup might have a very urgent use case for a particular email feature, like email tracking, right? Not all of us in general want to be tracking emails, right? He wants to know whether the client he has sent an email to has opened it or not, and whether he has read it or not, right? So for him, it's a very urgent use case. So if you're creating an app about tracking emails, you need to reach out to sales personnel, right? So that's how you kind of find out the right audience for you. And how do you kind of define this audience is also very important. It can again not be as generic as somebody who is in sales. You have to actually define who in the sales ecosystem is the right person for you. Is it somebody who has just started doing sales? Is it somebody who is experienced at sales? Because for example, somebody who is experienced at sales already has a solution for email tracking, right? He may not look at your solution. Somebody who is new to sales might be more receptive to your new app, right? So that's how you kind of figure out who's the right consumer for you. You define your consumers based on their age group, based on their gender, based on their location, based on their behavior. And by behavior, we mean, for example, are they using, say, they're used to using more iPhones or Android phones, or they do their purchases in the beginning of the month or the end of the month, or they use mobile for their personal use during end of night, or say during weekends only. So those are the kind of behavior that you need to understand about the consumer who has a very urgent use case for you, right? This will help you kind of ensure that your marketing and targeting are correct and accurate and reaching out to the right user. Then you can define your consumer based on interests, right? What are they interested in? Are they interested in reading blogs, watching videos? Are they interested in entertainment? Are they interested in art? Are they interested in offline activities more or online activities? Are they interested in sports, or are they interested in education? Those are the things that you kind of define about your right consumer. The last thing that you have to define is again technology, right? What is the kind of technology that you are using? Because as we go back and see that marketing is essentially trying to reach out to the right consumer through mediums and platforms, right? Now understanding your right consumer, what technology is using, will help you answer which media and which platform, right? For example, if you know that your consumer only reads newspapers, reaching out to them through Facebook and Twitter is not going to make a lot of sense, right? The other way around, if you know that your consumer is say very young people in India, you will know that okay, they're very active on Snapchat, right? So something like Instagram or Facebook again might not be relevant for you, right? So you need to figure out the technology that they are using and accordingly go and reach to that right consumer. Right. Now once you've decided, okay, this is the right consumer for me, how do you reach out to that consumer, right? First, what you do is focus on the media that you own, right? When we talk about media, we say that websites, blogs, social profiles, everything is a media, right? So you need to first first work on the media that you already own. You can easily go and create a social profile for yourself, create a website for yourself, create a blog for yourself, right? You can hire the right kind of people who are already popular within the space that you're trying to reach out to, right? So that's what you do. You kind of focus on your people, product, technology, profiles, websites, and content first. Crack that. Because unless that is ready, if you're getting a lot of users to your website and your website is not communicating the right message or not reaching out to the right consumer, your website will essentially fail. 1,000 people will hit your website, but nobody will download your app, right? Similarly, if you bring a million people to your app store page, but your app store page is not attractive enough and not reaching out to the right consumer again, which you defined in the previous step, it's not going to convert and make them download, right? So you need to focus on your own media first before reaching out to other mediums, which is what I mean by this section, right? Now that you have cracked your own media, right, you need to define as to what is the purpose of each medium, right? The purpose of each medium is to release communication to consumers, right? And each of these communications needs to engage the user and keep and make them coming back to your app again and again, right? And not only that, they should fall in love with your app so much that they also bring in more people, right? So that's the purpose of all your communication that you do in your own media as well as paid media, right? Because why do you want to kind of do this? For example, if you take a step back in your own life, what are the brands or products or services you use, right? And if you take a step back, you'll realize that okay, you started using those products because either you heard from your friend or you saw an exciting advertisement about that product, right? And that's what I mean, that because that product's ads were so memorable and so engaging, you kind of went ahead and started using that product. Or it was for one of your friends started using it because he saw the ad and he was so engaged by the product itself, he told you about it, right? So this entire cycle will only work when you are able to crack this, right? So before going and actually spending money on paid platforms, you need to crack this with your own media, right? Engage the consumer so that they keep coming back, and not only come back, they also bring more people along with them, right? Now, so how do you do that? It's extremely simple in terms of theory. You have to just build amazing and memorable communications, right? If you kind of remember your childhood, what are the kind of TV ads that you remember? Or if you say that, okay, yesterday you saw TV, what are the ads that you remember, right? In television, it's very easy to make a memorable ad because it's a video platform. There's a lot of visuals there, so it's easy to make it memorable. But what you need to figure out is, across all your mediums, you need to make your communication as memorable, right? So that's what a lot of people kind of forget. Like for example, if you are doing a Facebook ad, they'll just kind of copy paste that screenshot, put it there, and that's it, right? That's not going to kind of work with people. It's not going to make them download your app, or even if they download the app, they'll not even remember what they saw, right? And they'll kind of, you'll lose them in the first install itself, which is what you don't want to be doing, right? So to kind of stop that, you have to build amazing and memorable communication, right? So focus on your audience, understand your audience, what they like, what they dislike, and then kind of come back and build a communication that will attract them first, and also start making them fall in love with your product. How do you do that? Is essentially you look at your own marketplace, right? Your right consumer, what is the other kind of communications he's seeing, right? Because if you have to stand out, you have to stand out in comparison to all the other communications that they are getting, right? If your communication is very similar to a competing app, they're not going to be able to, you're not going to be able to win them over the other app, right? So you have to kind of ensure that in the marketplace, within the competitors that you have, within the substitute products or services that you have, your communication has to stand out, right? So that's the purpose of building amazing and memorable communication, right? Now we have done that. You have kind of found out the right consumer. You have built really amazing content and communication on your own medium. You've also kind of tested those communication out in other media and also in paid medium. Now we have done that. Now how do you know whether it is working or not? Which is the most important aspect of doing it again and again and again, right? Because doing it one time is very easy, right, or sounds easy, but doing it again and again is the only way to ensure that audiences keep coming to your app and keep using your app, right? So do that. You have to kind of analyze and optimize your campaigns, right? Each of your campaigns should be better than your previous campaigns, right? Each of your new campaigns should be better than the competitor's new campaign, right? So you need to compare yourself with your previous campaigns, and you also compare your campaigns with your competitors' campaign, right? So how do you kind of do that? Is essentially you ensure that when you're doing this, you have the right analytics tools and data set in your place. You're capturing all the information within your app as well as outside of your app, right? If you have Google Analytics installed, you need to be tracking the right events so that you know that when a user comes in, what is he doing on a regular basis, right? You also need to kind of partner with attribution tracking so that you know, okay, this guy came from Facebook, he did this. This guy came from Facebook, and this particular post attracted him, and this is what he did after that, right? This guy read about me in a blog review. He came to my Play Store page, he downloaded the app, this is what he did. So you need to be able to track not only what they do in your app, but where they're coming from, right? And where they are going, which is the exit, which page they are exiting from or which screen they are exiting from. You need to be able to track that entire thing, right? Now, within your product, it's very easy to be able to do that. You know what events that you want to track and all of that. Now, how do you kind of track or measure the performance of your campaigns in media, which is third party, right? Whether it's Facebook, Twitter, or Google Ads and things like that, right? So to be able to do that, you need to kind of understand the numbers that they show in their own dashboard, right? So I'll start by explaining those numbers one by one, so you can kind of go back and understand, okay, this is how a campaign runs, right? So you start off with reach, right? So Facebook says it's reach, Google will say it's impressions, but yeah, in that sense, the parameter is similar to each other. It's trying to showcase the number of people that you are able to be present for, right? For example, if you're browsing through Facebook and your ad showed up, right? It showed up for 10,000 users. So that's the reach, right? And similarly in Facebook, if 10,000 people search for a particular keyword, that's your reach, right? How it kind of helps you measure performance is, that's your universe, right? So if you are able to reach to 10,000 users, how many of them downloaded your app and actually started using it? So that's how it's the top of the funnel to see, right? After that, what they have to do essentially is, when they have seen your ad, whether it's a text ad or a visual ad or a TV ad, right? What do they do after that? Which is their action point, right? They can either open it, click it, or view it and forget it, right? So you kind of need to understand what is happening. Are a lot of people clicking on it? What is your CTR, which is the click-through rate? If a lot of people are clicking and still not installing your app, that means that communication piece is not relevant for them. It is probably drastically different from what is there on your app page, and that's why they are probably clicking on it but not installing your app, right? People are installing your app but not using your app. That essentially means that your communication on the App Store page is right, but your app is not able to meet those requirements that the consumer comes from after reading all of that, right? So that's how you kind of judge open rate or click rate, right? And then the next number that you have to analyze essentially is the cost per click or the cost per impression, right? Why do you kind of analyze this number? Is this helps you decide whether you have enough money to reach X number of users, right? So for example, you spend say $1,000 to reach 10,000 users and say 100 installed, right? Now you need to understand if you are able to spend that $1,000 again and again to bring those 100 users, right? If you're not, then that's it. That you will not be able to reach more than 100 people, right? So that's essentially why this number is very important. It tells you how much you can grow, right? And that's very important for anybody to do, right? Completed action or results. This is something that you kind of track within your app. So for example, if they have downloaded the app and the first step in your app is to sign up, right? Are people signing up after the download, right? It's a very important number to track, because if people have not signed up, they've essentially downloaded and they have left your app, right? So they're not active users. So whatever money you spent is kind of a loss for you in that sense if nobody signs up, right? And your cost also needs to be measured per action, which is the last one, is the cost per action. So if sign up is your goal, or say buying a product within your app is a goal, or in-app purchase is your goal, right? You need to be able to track that number and attach it to the particular campaign, because otherwise you will not know which campaign is doing well or which medium is doing well, right? So these are the numbers you kind of assess and measure your performance. I'll after this, what I'll do is explain the two most popular mediums to gain app downloads, right, or run engagement ads for apps. These are Google AdWords and Facebook. What I'll do is I'll kind of explain in brief as to what Google AdWords is and what Facebook is. I'll start with AdWords, right? So AdWords is essentially all about keywords, right? How Google started was essentially a search engine, right? And in a search engine, people enter keywords to search, right? Even on Play Store, when I'm trying to look for an app, I'm most likely to go and search for that particular keyword. Like for example, if I'm looking for say a puzzle game, I'll go and type puzzle game. Or if I'm looking for an email app, I'll go and type email app, right? So Google AdWords is essentially a platform that helps you reach out to those consumers who are searching for something specific, right? They may be searching for it, they may also be reading content around that topic, right? So those are the two places that you can reach out to using Google AdWords, right? Google AdWords is essentially a platform that is mostly manual, plus there is some algorithms that Google has brought into recently, right? What I mean by manual and algo driven essentially is that in Google you need to tell Google that this is your budget, this is your bid, these are the set of keywords that you're trying to target, right? And this is the page that you want to take them to, right? And once the campaigns start running, you have to kind of go and optimize the bids yourself, change the bids yourself, or add more keywords or remove keywords, add negative keywords, and all of that you have to go and do manually, right? But recently, for example, with universal app install campaigns and other kind of features that Google has brought in, you can also use Google's algorithm. What it does essentially is, once you launch a campaign and tell user that this is the app that I want to promote, Google does all the legwork of finding the keywords, finding the places to advertise, finding the right bid amounts and all of that, and will go and spend the money that you want it to spend, right? So it will do all the hard work. You will not have to do kind of do the manual effort. So they kind of have both within their product, right? Google AdWords is essentially split into or is essentially structured in a pyramid format, and how the pyramid starts from campaigns, right? The campaigns essentially are to define the budget and what kind of optimization that you want to do and what kind of results you want to achieve, right? So for example, if you want an app install campaign, you will go and do a universal app install campaign. If you want a search campaign, you will go a search campaign. If you want to do a display campaign, you can do a display campaign, right? So where you are trying to reach the user, what's your budget, and what kind of bidding do you want to do is controlled at the campaign level. Once you have created the campaign, you need to move on to the ad group level. Ad group level controls the theme of the keywords or the theme of the creatives that you will be using, right? So it's essentially just a container in that sense. It allows you to kind of have a bid for that particular ad group. For example, here, let's start a campaign for people in Mumbai who are interested in, say, movie tickets, right? So that's your campaign. You've defined your audience. You have defined people searching for something, right? And you say you're going to be spending $1,000 there, right? So you will now create an ad group where you will decide, okay, if movie tickets, I want to reach out to people who are looking for movie tickets, I will split my ad groups into people who are looking for Bollywood movies, people who are looking for Hollywood movies, people who are searching for a particular theater. So these can be 3 or 4 ad groups that I can create, right? So that's how you create an ad group. Within the ad group, you go and add keywords first, right? So basically you define, okay, if Bollywood movies is what I want to target, you'll go and add the latest movies that are there, and you'll add them as keywords, right? Now you can add keywords in multiple formats. The formats are broad, BMM, which is broad modified match, phrase match, and specific, right? So by broad, what Google essentially means is, if you add something like Bollywood, right? Google has its own understanding of the term Bollywood, right? It will say Hindi movies also means Bollywood. It will say Amitabh Bachchan movies also means Bollywood, right? So it will have that understanding, and it will kind of show as to even people who are searching for those related terms. They might not be the exact term that you put. So that's essentially what broad means, right? BMM is kind of a version of broad where you're trying to tell Google that don't show it to people who are searching for Amitabh Bachchan movies or Hindi movies. Show only to people who are searching for anything that has Bollywood as a term within that sentence. So, for example, if somebody is searching for how to watch a Bollywood movie or where can I see a Bollywood movie, what are the latest Bollywood movies, all three of them will see your ad if you say BMM Bollywood, which is essentially you need to add a plus symbol before the keyword to make it BMM, right? Phrase match is like it says, it's essentially a phrase which says, okay, Bollywood movie tickets is, for example, a phrase, right? When somebody searches for that phrase, people will see your ad. Specific essentially means that you show an ad only for a very specific keyword. Like if you put Bollywood in quotes, only when somebody is searching for Bollywood and only Bollywood in their search term will they see their ad, right? So that's how kind of Google defines how you can add a keyword into an ad group, right? Once you have done that, the last step essentially is to actually go and create the ad, which is the communication the user will see. Again, here you have to go back and realize that the communication needs to attract your user set, not everybody, and it needs to ensure that it's memorable and amazing, right? Even for example, if they see the ad, they may not click on it. The text should be so good that they at least remember it, so that when they come to your website next time on their own through other mediums, they can kind of recollect, okay, I had seen the ad of this person or the text of this person, right? So that's how you kind of create the ads, right? So that's about Google AdWords and how you go about kind of setting up your campaign in Google AdWords. Next would be Facebook, right? Facebook essentially is everything of everyone, right? Whether you want to kind of sell anything, you probably go on Facebook and say, okay, I have this to sell. If you want to kind of stalk your friends, you go to Facebook and stalk your friends. If you want to go follow a blogger, you will go and like him on Facebook or follow him on Twitter or things like that, right? But what happens is when you kind of do all of that, Facebook is collecting data about you, right? So in that sense, there is absolutely no other medium right now which has as much data about you as Facebook has, right? So that kind of makes it very interesting for marketers because you can kind of then segment your users so specifically and show them so specific communications that the match is like a match made in heaven, right? And that's why it is so important for marketers to understand this new medium. How Facebook is different than Google? It's primarily algorithm driven, right? What I mean by that is you can obviously go and change the bids and put a CPI that you want or a CPE that you want, but Facebook works best when you let it optimize on its own, right? Why is that the case? Because users who are accessing Facebook, Facebook is in control of showing what at what point in time, right? And because a user might at this particular point in time not be interested in something like a Bollywood movie, right? For example, if you in Google you can tell that he's searching for a Bollywood movie ticket, right? So you know that the audience is looking for that at that point in time. In Facebook, you don't know whether he wants the Bollywood movie ticket right now, right? So it's very difficult for you to know what the user wants at that particular point in time, and that's where the algorithm comes in play, because it kind of tries to figure out what he's looking at that point in time. And because Facebook has data about what you're doing, what you're organically seeing or clicking, and what are the other competitors, it probably is very good to depend on its algorithm instead of trying to do it manually. Right? So that's how it is different from Google. But here also it's kind of a pyramid structure that is followed by Facebook. So you start by campaign, but here the campaign is only the campaign here is like the ad group in AdWords. Is essentially just to kind of bundle up things together and put it into a superset, right? It by itself has no function, right? Because all the budgeting, optimization, targeting, etc., you do at an ad set level, not at a campaign level, right? So it's essentially only to kind of bucket similar things together. At a campaign level, what you can select is what's the purpose of the campaign, which is essentially, is it awareness, is it post-like campaign, is it an app install campaign, is it an app engagement campaign, is it a conversion campaign, etc., etc. Right? So that's how you kind of start from a campaign. Once you created the campaign, the next most important aspect in Facebook is the ad set, right? So for example, let's take the same example of you trying to reach out to people who are looking to book Bollywood movie tickets, right? In Facebook, because you don't know what people are looking for, you will distribute the ad set by defining your audience, subset of audience, right? What you need to do here essentially is create segments of audience which are mutually exclusive. Like you create segments based on age group, right? Like people between 20 to 25, 26 to 31, things like that. You need to create mutually exclusive sets. Here, for example, if you are using interest as a targeting parameter, right? Remember, if you have added interest of Bollywood in one of your ad sets, ensure that it is excluded in the next ad set, right? Because what happens is, if you're targeting, because somebody can be interested in both Bollywood as well as say English movies, right? But your communication, the ad that you will be creating is targeted at a person who's interested in Bollywood, right? Person who's interested in English movie, you might want to have a different communication, right? To be able to do that, you need to ensure that they are excluded from the other ad set, right? How this helps is essentially ensures Facebook doesn't show the same user different ads, right? Because that essentially would kind of increase your cost first, because two ads are being shown, so two impressions are going and you're paying twice for a single user, and also kind of not be relevant for the user, so your relevance score will also drop. So ensure your ad sets are mutually exclusive, right? Once you've defined the targeting, you kind of say, okay, I will want to want the install at this cost, or I want to only run an Instagram campaign or a Facebook newsfeed campaign, and those kind of things, right? So those are the things that you define at the ad set level. After that, you kind of move to creating an ad. Now always remember that within each ad set, you should always have at least two ads running. Why do you want to do that is essentially you're trying to test which ad is doing better, and you're also ensuring that that Facebook knows that there are two ads that it can show. Because what happens in Facebook is, if one particular ad or visual is being shown too many times to a user and it's still not getting clicks, Facebook will kind of give your entire account a bad score, right? So you want to kind of have different visuals so that your ads don't become monotonous for the same user, right? So that's why you should have at least two ads within your ad set. And the different formats here are carousel, where you must have seen on Facebook, where you see a slide kind of a format where you can swipe and see 3 or 5 different images of a particular ad, right? Then there is a single image ad where only a single image is there. There are video ads where you can showcase a video as an ad. There are slideshows and canvas, different formats that you can use within Facebook. So that's essentially about Facebook marketing and how you can use it to kind of drive installs for your ad. So that's it from my side in terms of explaining what mobile app marketing and how you can go about doing it. So that's it from my side. I will hand it over to Bharti.
Thank you. So we have a few questions that we had collected. During the registration. So to start with, we take a few questions from there. So to start with, Tushar has asked how to build trust to engage for getting first download.
So it's a really good question, because like I even said that any of your communication should actually engage the consumer. Only if you engage the consumer will you be able to gain his trust to kind of not only download but actually use your app, right? So that's why this question is very important. And how do you kind of build that, right? So if you kind of realize what are the brands or products you trust, right? You will kind of go back and realize that, okay, you trust that brand because of it came from a very valued or trusted source, right? For example, if your dad told you about a product or a brand and you kind of trust your dad, you will kind of trust that brand, right? So trust comes from association, right? Trust comes from reviews or ratings, right? So that's how you kind of build trust to engage user for the first download. That's why kind of even on App Store or Play Store, they both focus on app ratings so much, right? The organic rankings of an app are completely driven by its user rating. Then this is the reason, because Google knows that okay, if somebody has given a 5 star, that person trusts this product, right? And because that person trusts this product, others will also kind of start trusting, right? So that's how you kind of ensure. You can show your reviews within your ad. You can show say for example, you have been featured on TechCrunch or featured by Google or Apple itself. That can be a trust factor. Or you can even kind of partner with apps that you think are trustworthy for the same target audience, right? And you kind of co-market with them or co-brand with them. That will also help in kind of adding that trust factor. So that's how you build trust to engage and get the user for the first download.
Okay, so another question from Balakumaran. He asks, what is the key differentiator strategy for mobile app marketing for a B2B and B2C scenario?
Yeah. So this is again a very critical question, because somebody looking to interact with a business is very different from somebody who's looking to interact or in that sense, somebody who's looking to buy a product or a service for his or her business is very different than when somebody is trying to buy something for themselves, right? For example, for myself, I might want to buy the most expensive of phones, right? Which I know would be very useful for me. For my company, I might want to buy something which is the cheapest one, so that I ensure that it is as profitable as possible, right? Similarly, in terms of say, I'm trying to use a service, which is say again in this case email tracking, right? For if I'm using it for my business, I am probably willing to pay a little bit more because I want it to be very efficient. But as a consumer, I would probably want it to be free, right? So that's how the kind of customer's outlook towards your app changes, whether he's looking for it for a business perspective or for personal use, right? That's how consumers' psyche is very different in these cases. Now, because the psyche is different, when they are looking for it and where they are looking for it also changes, right? For example, if I am looking for a B2B app, I might be looking at B2B forums or B2B blogs, right? But if I am looking for an app for my personal use, I am probably asking my friends or say browsing through Facebook or reading some generic tech blogs, right? So where you kind of place your marketing pieces also is driven by the fact whether you're trying to reach a person who's trying to buy for a business or for themselves, right? So that's how kind of B2B and B2C is very different. You need to kind of understand what medium or platform is relevant for what. For example, say a B2B company might move away from Google Play Store and focus on delivering the app only through their own platform, right? Might be one of the approaches that a B2B company takes, right? Whereas if you are B2C, you have to be on Play Store. You can't avoid it, right? So that those are the kind of differences that you can see when it comes to B2B marketing vis-a-vis B2C marketing.
Okay, so Praisudi asks, is there any other channel which is as good as Facebook and Google Media in terms of tracking conversions?
Yeah. So tracking conversions is dependent on the analytics that are there within your app. So they're not necessarily dependent on Facebook and Google in that sense. So what people are doing on your app and where they're coming from, your analytics needs to be in place to kind of measure that. But what I would probably think that what the user is trying or what Raishudi is trying to ask is the tracking of the campaign itself. Is there anything better than Facebook and Google? Unfortunately, the answer is no. Facebook and Google are probably the best in terms of showcasing how the ad is performing, where they are kind of open ad platforms. if you go to an ad network or a mobile ad network or a Chinese ad network, they are closed platforms. They'll only show you that okay, you put in $1,000 and you got so many downloads. What happened, where did the downloads come from, at what time the download came from, and all of that information is hidden in those places. Whereas in Facebook and Google is completely shown to you. Okay, this is the ad. This ad was shown to these many users at these point in times and these many times, and this is how they clicked, and this is somebody clicked, somebody liked, somebody shared, and all of that, right? So that's something that Facebook and Google share, but not necessarily any other platform shares that information.
Can we change it to the first
slide? The marketing.
Okay. Another question from Krishna Prasad is, how can we differentiate your app among thousands of others, and what are the cost-effective marketing strategies?
There are essentially three methods that you can use to kind of differentiate your app. First, you kind of need to look within and realize what's the most unique aspect of your app or your business, right? For example, if the most unique aspect of your app is something which is, say, the usability of the app itself, you've kind of created a very good user experience, and that's the most unique factor. You need to kind of understand that so that you can project it to your consumer, right? So first is trying to understand yourself, what is the most unique aspect of your app. Second is you need to understand your consumer base, right? Your right consumer, as I mentioned earlier, the person who has the most urgent use case for your app, right? For them, what is the most important thing, right? For example, if your most important thing is user experience, or most unique aspect is user experience, but your user actually doesn't care about it, it's going to be a mismatch, right? So you're not going to be kind of able to stand out in front of him, because for him UX doesn't matter, right? So kind of you need to be able to match your USP with what the consumer wants, right? Once you kind of do that, look within yourself and arrive at that point in time, you also need to look at the marketplace in general, right? What are the other products or apps that are available which do things which are similar to what you do, or can be acting as a substitute to what you do, right? And you need to look at what they are communicating, right? For example, what you are communicating is exactly the same as the next person in the, say, Google organic ranking, right? People are going to be, it's going to be very difficult for people to decide which one to download, right? That's why it's very important for you to know, okay, your competitor is saying this, and how I can kind of convert, I can say something else which is more relevant to the user, or more attractive to the user. So you need to look at the marketplace, the competitive landscape in general, and kind of reassess your own communication, right? The third way to kind of stand out in front of your audience essentially is using the right medium and communication, the combination of these two. For example, your users, for example, your competitor is taken over Facebook and is advertising to your audience on Facebook a lot, right? But you see that your users also use, say, Instagram a lot more, right? And they're engaged on Instagram a lot more often, right? So you have a very Instagram specific strategy which your competitor doesn't have, right? So you kind of try to look at medias and platforms where you can stand out easily because your user is there and nobody else is available. So you need to find those loopholes within the competitor's marketing campaign and kind of go and fix that. These are three ways that you can stand out.
So the next question is about from Arvind, and it's about the most optimal marketing metrics that to be used to compare results across different apps.
Yeah. So the most important matrix would essentially be the cost effectiveness of the platform, right? So for example, if you are able to get thousands of people from Facebook and only 20 people from Google Ads, right? And Facebook is charging you $20, whereas Google is charging you only $2 per install, right? You know that Google is more efficient and he is getting the right user because they are able to get it at a lower cost, right? So that's how you kind of assess two different platforms, right? Now here again, the caveat is if in Google there are not enough users to go beyond 20, then it is not the right platform. So you need to kind of ensure that you compare the cost per action, per result with the reach that you're getting, right? Because if, for example, Google is showing ad to about say 100 people, whereas Facebook is showing ad to 2 million people, right? And in spite of optimizing budget and everything, Google is not able to go beyond 1,000 people. You know that this is the maximum that you can reach through Google. So it's again not a good marketing medium, right? So that's how you kind of measure different platforms against each other.
Okay, Srinidhi asks, if a mobile app is not visually appealing or technically good but provides a good value, how can marketing help you?
Yep. So here again, I'll go back to kind of the definition of the right consumer, right? So if you are able to kind of define the consumer who has a very urgent use case for your app, right? For example, if say sending out 1,000 emailers to a client right now is a very urgent need for a B2B consumer, right? And he can't wait for an hour or 2 hours to kind of do the research, right? Any app that is able to help him do that, even if it is very difficult to if it's not visually appealing and all of that, he'll use it because his use case is extremely urgent, right? He doesn't have the time to kind of go and research and find the best app, the best looking app. He wants to kind of use it there itself, right? So you need to kind of find that urgent use case and be present in front of them as the first result, right? For example, if your app is not visually appealing, but your app store optimization and keyword optimization is so great that you organically come in number one position, right? You'll again keep on getting downloads and keep on using the consumers. So you need to kind of ensure that you're able to communicate in your marketing this urgent use case, right? So that people forget about the fact that whether it is visually appealing or not and are able to kind of focus on the urgent use case.
So next question is from Prasanna on the GoToWebinar panel. He asks, what should be the ideal size of the app? Does this play a factor for downloads?
See, this will again be dependent on very much on your consumer segment that you're targeting, if as well as the kind of technology that they are using, right? For example, if you're targeting somebody who is mostly in office or at home using Wi-Fi, right? Download size will not be a factor there. Secondary aspect would be if you're targeting people who don't have high-end phones, right? Storage space will be limited for them, so they will not want to download a very big app, right? So it depends on your consumer who you're targeting, right? If you're targeting somebody who say has a high-end phone and usually has very easy access to Wi-Fi or even 4G, right? Download size doesn't matter.
Okay, so we're taking the last question from Prabhat. He asks, what are the offline modes of marketing an app? Any insights on that?
In that sense, marketing an app, whether online and offline, has you are essentially are trying to follow the same principles, which is reaching the right target audience and creating memorable communication, right? The right mediums, offline mediums for an app download would depend on your again consumer set here. For example, if your app is say a restaurant ordering app or say something like a Zomato, right? So you know that okay, if say Zomato right now did not exist, right? People are going around in restaurants. So what did Zomato do? It started giving restaurants a certificate that it is on Zomato, and they started putting those certificates on their in display in the restaurants. So essentially, that was a very good offline marketing tactic that Zomato used to kind of communicate people that okay, there is something called as Zomato, and you can go and check about restaurants there. Right? Similarly, say if Book My Show kind of goes and advertise at movie halls, people will know okay, instead of standing in this line, they advertise where people are standing in the ticket window, right? They know okay, they can easily book a ticket on Book My Show and don't need to stand in line, right? So it depends on the app as well as your audience where they are, and what's the best and easiest way to communicate to them offline.
So thank you SK for your insights today. It was a very informative session, and I hope we answered a lot of questions around marketing. Thank you everybody for joining us on this webinar. For any feedbacks that you want to give to us, you can always write to us on letstalk@payu.in. You can also go and like our Facebook page called UpStart CodeUp for more events and webinars. We also do offline events, and if you have any suggestions around the sort of webinars and events the topics that you want to see more events on, we would like to hear from you. I would like to, on behalf of PayU, I would like to thank everybody again, and a big thanks to SK for joining us today. Thank you. Done.
Thank you. Hopefully it was good.
It was good. We have talked